Hello and welcome to Onsite with Matt Cheney, episode number 8. A collection of short videos following me around the DC metropolitan area, visiting the different neighborhoods I serve as a realtor. Today we're in Rosslyn, Virginia. Often called the gateway of Arlington, Rosslyn, Virginia is probably the closest place in Arlington, or Virginia that is, to Washington, D.C. It's connected to D.C. by Key Bridge. Key Bridge actually connects over to where Francis Scott Key actually used to have his house in Georgetown many years ago. Roslyn's history is very connected to Washington, D.C. Just to give you some background, Arlington used to be part of the Virginia that was actually donated to the nation's capital, but it eventually actually went back or was reincorporated back into Virginia. So some of the streetscape and some of the circles that you'll find in Roslyn actually are very much associated with Washington, D.C., but Roslyn is not subject to the height limits that you'll find in D.C. So if you're looking for skyrise living in the DC metropolitan area, you probably want to start your search in Roslyn. There's a lot of high-end condos and co-ops located here. There's also a fair amount of major corporations that have their headquarters here in Roslyn. As you can see, there's some really good-looking buildings. They have great views over the river into Washington, D.C., and as you can see, Washington, D.C. behind me is a little bit shorter. That's because D.C. generally the buildings are about 12 stories tall, and that has to do with there's being a height limit, and that goes back to way back when the thought was if you build too many high-rises, it's going to block the sunlight in the street and for folks living in row homes and what have you. Getting back to Roslyn. Roslyn, the word has it, was named after a gentleman by the name of William Ross and his wife Carolyn. That's an abbreviation of his last name and her first name, so Ross Lyn. I looked up Ross Lyn and the historic places back in Europe, and it's a different spelling, so I'm going to run with Roslyn is named after William Ross and his wife Carolyn, so Rosslyn. Roslyn had some interesting time periods. At one point there was an aqueduct that crossed from Georgetown and actually extended the canal, which runs from West Virginia through Maryland, and actually extended it so you could actually take the same barges down to Alexandria, which was the major port way back when, and that's because the Potomac River is wider and deeper at that point, so the larger boats or ships that were coming over from Europe, they could be there and ship things out from there versus coming up here to Georgetown. That being said, Roslyn's very much connected to DC and Georgetown, and really the heyday for Roslyn was in the 1960s when they built out the interstate highways here in the DC area. Virginia got a fair amount of those highways because it was not as well developed or as built out as Maryland and DC were, and that's really when a lot of these high-rises were starting to be built here in Roslyn. So if you're looking again for condo living, high-rise living, great proximity into DC, but you want to live in Virginia and you have great access to National Airport, Dulles Airport, all things Virginia, such as Tyson's Corner, what have you, Roslyn's a great place to look. To give you kind of a background or feel for the real estate market here in Roslyn, I'm going to cover the zip code 22209, and to be specific, there were 265 condos and co-ops to trade in the past year in this market. Average sales price was $537,000. Average days on market was 51. The highest sale was in the building right behind us right here, Turnberry Tower. It's a luxury building. There was a penthouse that sold. It was a Model J floor plan, 3-bedroom, 3.5 baths. Square footage was 345 square feet. Sales price was $3,050,000. So we're looking at over $1,000 per square foot for a penthouse condo right there. So we're talking a very nice property and a very nice home. So if you're looking for large condos with great views into DC of the Potomac River and what have you, this is probably a building you should be looking at. There are some other high-rise condos around here where you can look as well. There's also some townhouses in the area as well, or townhouse communities that were built out over time. They're not as large a portion of the sub-market. There were 29 of those townhouses to trade in the past year. They averaged $1,888,000. So these are luxury townhouses. They're often 4 stories tall. They'll often have elevators, maybe 2-car garage, rooftop terraces with views into DC. They average about 50 days in the market. The most expensive one to sell was $2,250,000 for a 4,800 square foot townhouse. That was at the Bromptons at Monument Place. Bromptons at Monument Place is a really nice development that's actually across the street from the Iwo Jima Memorial. So if you've heard of Arlington Cemetery, it's just on the other side of these buildings, just to give you kind of a feel for where we are. And just beyond that is the Pentagon. So very much Washington, D.C., but we're really in Virginia. So I wanted to give you kind of that feel for it. So if you're looking for condo living, high-rise living in the DC metropolitan area, you want great access to DC, you really like Virginia, and you love just kind of the things that Virginia offers as well, Roslyn is definitely should be on your places to check out. And of course, I'd love to show these condos and homes to you. Thank you for joining me today on episode number 8 of Onsite with Matt Cheney. Of course, I would love to get your feedback on what you thought of this video and other things you want me to cover in the future. Have a great day. Bye.